Play fake to Walker. Sam rolls out near side. Throw is made. Touchdown! Seahawks! Jackson Smith-Njigba from 12 yards. Second and 4 from his own 34. McMahon throws intercepted again. It's Jobe. He's inside the 20, the 15, the 10, the 5. Touchdown Seahawks! 2 interceptions, 2 touchdowns for the Seahawks. A 34-yard return. Lofa Jobe, welcome to the NFL, baby. 35, he's on the run, Lynch. 40, pushes the man, 35, look at him go. He's down to 20, 15, he could go. He is going to go. Touchdown Seahawks. Oh my word, a 67-yard run.
Welcome in everyone to another episode of the Hawks Eye Live podcast. And today I am joined by Dayna O'Gorman. Dayna, how is it going?
It's good. Your intro, 2 things. It made me really miss Doug Baldwin. I swear, I get these waves of missing Doug Baldwin so badly sometimes. Just the ridiculous things that he used to do, and then Marshawn Lynch at the end. I'm not a jersey person. Like I have 4 of them up on my wall that are signed, but I don't wear them often. But when I was in Seattle for the home opener, I did order a Marshawn Lynch jersey. I just had to have one. So I'm excited. Still waiting for it to get here. But yes, I'm very excited about it. Yes, but thank you so much for having me.
So this is your first time coming on the Hawks Eye here. We've discussed football and Seahawks a lot of times before, but just to get you over here is awesome. So what I kind of thought I'd do today is we kind of get your vibe check on this team. We're basically, I guess, theoretically a quarter of the way through the season now based on the new schedule, roughly. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to talk to you, get a vibe check. Where are the Seahawks right now? And so my first kind of question is for you is, what are your impressions after 4 weeks with this team, Dayna?
I'm excited. And that's, I was excited at the beginning of the year, right? Like I knew the defense was going to be good. I was so excited about that. I wasn't sure where the offense was going to sit, as most of us didn't. So 4 games in, I think my biggest vibe is excitement. And you can see the team is excited too, right? Because every week they just get a little better and a little better and a little better, and things click a little faster. And there's just more, I hate to say it, but just more certainty on the field, if that makes sense. And so right now, I think that the Seahawks are surprising a lot of people, and you're hearing that now in the national media, although there's a ton of people in national media who are like, oh yeah, I totally already thought that. No, you didn't, right? You had us coming in 4th, right? Whatever. But I think that the excitement is building kind of across the league, that they're like, maybe we overlooked this and we shouldn't have. So it's fun. It's a great place to be as a fan. It's a great place to be as a reporter, because you have a lot of great things to talk about. But yeah, I think the feeling you get from the players, the feeling you get from the coaches, the fans, people like us, is just a good sense of excitement.
It's really interesting because you think about, when this whole offseason started, there was a whole idea of, okay, like we're going in with Gino and DK and all these guys. And then it turned into, okay, no, we're doing like an overhaul of this offense. So, we've got this new offensive coordinator now in Clint Kubiak. Sam Darnold's here. And we've seen this offense for 4 weeks. Comparing it to last year, and I'll even go back, let's go back over the last, I don't know, say 10 years, Dayna.
Okay.
Is this the most confidence you've had in an offense consistently being able to complement the defense?
I don't know if I could go back 10 years and say that. 15, 16, those were from some pretty good Russ years, right? So I don't know that I can say that, but definitely over the last 5 or 6, for sure. What's interesting that's going on in this offense is there just seems to be so much variation. And that was something that we have been screaming for forever. We wanted them to go over the middle and use middle of the field. They didn't for so many years under Pete and last year. So it's not even like it was just last year. It was even in Pete. And they're doing that. They're really using the middle of that field now. And they're really varying up their personnel and how they're using the offense. And so I'm very confident that they are confusing defenses right now, I guess is a really good way to put it. And so I'm very impressed. I was very concerned, as were most of us, about the wide receiver room. And it wasn't because they got rid of DK and Tyler. I wasn't surprised, to be honest with you, about either one of those moves, because we had heard grumblings from DK for years, right? And he did not seem happy last year. We saw how, upset he would get that he wasn't being used and that sort of thing. And so the Geno thing surprised me, but the minute it happened, I'm like, oh, he's going to go play for Pete. And it just makes sense to me, right? He adores the man for saving his career. And so go play for Pete. And I'm fine with that. And that's no shade against Geno. I like Geno. It's just that I got it, right? It made sense. And so I feel like this current version of our offense is exactly what we have been waiting for so long. A strong run game that needs to be tweaked. Still, let's admit that. But a strong run game that they keep going back to, that then opens up the passing lanes. And it's just worked very, very well. It's very exciting.
Yeah, that's the one thing I'll say is like this offense, to your point, it looks so simple, but at the same time, it clearly is working in the fact of, to your point, confusing defenses, or because it looks so similar, so consistently, and they can do so many things out of the same look or varying looks, that it makes it really easy for the offensive guys to play fast. And I think we're seeing one prime example. I'm going to ask you who your biggest surprise is so far, and I think I may know on the offensive side who it is, but JSN. Like you talk about the receiving core. Yes, we knew JSN was probably going to be good. He was going to be good still. Like, he started to break out last year towards the back half once DK got injured and everything. And then you now see this version of JSN, the guy that can play outside, the guy that can clearly separate from defensive backs, which was something, vertically that we were all wondering, like, hey, can he actually run away from someone on a post, or is he going to be that intermediate guy? And where are we going to get those? Is it going to be Torrey Horton, or when in camp started MVS?
Right.
And we've seen the opposite. We've seen a almost complete receiver in JSN. Now, his blocking, a little bit suspect still. I don't think that's what we're going to be paying him the big bucks. But the one question I'll ask you, Dayna, about JSN is, say next year, or the year, like going into, I guess, year 4 for him, because that's when you can start having that discussion about his extension. Would you give him similar money that DK Metcalf was commanding if he continues what he's doing this year?
Oh, if it continues, yes. I think over last year, and then, because we saw him kind of break out last year. Granted, the offense was so bad, and he still managed to have those big games, right? And showed what he could do. And then what he's done already, and if he continues that, I mean, he's in the conversation for Offensive Player of the Year, right? Like the way he's been playing right now. And so I think that yes, if you truly think that you can, make your entire offense based around this wide receiver and this running back, you pay them, right? You just have to do it. In this league, someone else will. So if you are going to need that person, and that's really what you want to do, then yes, absolutely. He has been, very stable, very consistent. He's not injury prone. And now he's playing the football of his career. He's just looking fabulous. So my question then, I guess, is why wouldn't you?
Yeah. And that's kind of where I'm at. Like, to me is more worthy of getting, I think, that contract. Not saying I didn't love DK and everything, but the things JSN does, I think, are better than what DK did. Like JSN's route running and all the things he can do where you can move him around the field. Like, DK evolved a bit here in Seattle. We saw it from his rookie year where he was basically a slant, hook, go, post guy to a guy that could start running more routes. But I never felt when I watched DK going, yes, he is a complete receiver. And as his speed maybe starts to diminish as he gets older, he was never a real great jump ball, go get the fade in the end zone guy for his size, right? And and then when I look at JSN, I go, well, you look at guys that have been JSN's size, their build, they've had longer and more productive careers generally over the span of their time. And so that's why I feel like, I think JSN will definitely be worth it. But the one thing I was going to ask you is, are you slightly disappointed in the usage of Cooper Kupp so far, or his involvement, for say, in the passing game?
No, not at all. And here's why. When they grabbed Cooper Kupp, I was like, really? They've seen what's happened to him over the last few years, right? Like, they get it. Yes, he was a Super Bowl MVP, but he can't stay on the field. So I had absolutely no expectation, maybe is the way to look at it. I thought he would come in. I didn't know how they were going to use him, or was he just going to be a decoy, how long he'd stay on the field. It was a huge question mark for me. I was much more interested in Horton. And so I wanted to see how that was going to play out. But I have been pleasantly surprised with Cooper Kupp, because he has come on and he doesn't look like the old guy still trying to get paid out there. He is actually making great plays. Defenses are having to account for him, which I don't know that I thought they would have to. I thought JSN is just going to get doubled every time he's out there. Hopefully these tight ends will be able to figure something out, and that he would just be out there. So no, I'm thrilled that he's actually been able to make some plays. He's blocking well, and he's doing, I think, exactly what they want him to do. So no, I'm actually pleasantly surprised at the way they're using him. And I think they're just going to start using him more. I think that we have to understand we are 4 games into a brand new offense, right? And so it's going to keep evolving, especially as I was watching the Mina Kimes show. She had Brett Coleman on there, and he said something which cracked me up. He said, this offense is so varied, it looks like an offense from 2006, which cracked me up. I was like, yes, it kind of does. But that also is because they're trying things out. They're seeing what's working. They're still have a lot of forward motion to get. And so it's going to expand. So I'm now very interested in how they're going to continue to use Kupp. Stays on the field. That's what I'm hoping. And then how that will evolve, and how that then, because the defenses have to account for him, that's giving JSN more opportunities, give Horton more opportunities, the tight ends more opportunities. So I'm real thrilled with it.
Yeah, I'm actually, with the way that they've asked Kupp to be involved in this offense, it's like, hey, we don't need you to be the focal point. We'll let JSN take that role. You just kind of fit in and do your thing that you excel at, which Cooper Kupp's main thing, and we both know this from watching him for years. It was never, he was a burner. He was never this, he was the guy that just annoyed the hell out of you, because he'd run those overs, he'd run those unders, and he just, oh, look, there goes Cooper Kupp on a 5-yard pass and takes it for 15, and it's a first down again. And he's continued to do that here in Seattle. The thing that's a really funny statement that, Brett Coleman made about the 2006 offense, because when I watch this, Dayna, I feel like I sometimes look at the screen. I'm like, is Mike Holmgren calling plays? Like, are we watching Mike Holmgren, Matt Hasselbeck at certain points with, the boot plays and certain concepts? And I'm just like, I'm sitting there, and I loved Mike Holmgren's offense for years with Matt Hasselbeck. And that's kind of my comp for Sam Darnold in a way, is a more athletic, upgraded version of Matt Hasselbeck when he was here in Seattle. And Matt never blew anybody away statistically. And Sam, like, he's been playing really efficiently, but he's never thrown more than like 26, 28 times in a game so far this season, which I think is the perfect number in the world. So I'm not hoping he throws any more than that. But the one thing I was going to ask you, and I kind of have to, because it's a topic of discussion, this whole Riq Woolen situation, everyone we had our mini bye weekend. Everyone thought they were going to be able to sit at home as Seahawks fans, watch the NFL. No news is good news. And then Ian Rappaport decided to throw Seattle Seahawks fans into a frenzy about, well, teams are calling about Riq Woolen, and did Seattle's front office leak this? Did the agent leak this? Like, is Riq Woolen going to be a Seahawk continually? I'll ask you this way. How concerned are you about Riq's role right now on the defense, given Mike Macdonald's comments in the press conference that he had the other day, this report? Do you think Riq's going to see a diminished role come Sunday?
God, it's such a complicated question. The easy answer is probably, right? And so probably he will. They're irritated at him, as they should be. He has made some boneheaded decisions, and we've seen that over the years. But at the same time, I like Riq Woolen, and I know that is not a popular thing to say in this fan base right now, but I actually like him, and I like the way he plays. He does make mistakes. I get that, right? But supposedly he released things saying, no, I want to stay in Seattle. And so that makes me wonder if it did come from the front office instead of an agent, because, sometimes you get those. But that also concerns me a little bit, because that means that they're putting out there, is anyone interested? Now, I said this on another show earlier in the week. Fans have a tendency to look at their team and their team only, right? But for someone who has a podcast that covers all 32 teams, you have to look a little broader. There's a lot of injuries and a lot of secondaries out there. And so I also wonder if some of that carrot dangling is to see if someone will give up something big for him. And I will tell you, that's what I would need. I think that Riq Woolen has a place in this defense. I don't know how long that place will be held for him, but I will tell you, I hope, unless they get something really big for him, that he goes nowhere this year. I really am loving the depth that we have there. And I don't know that I want to mess with that, if that makes sense.
No, and that completely makes sense. Like, we've seen Josh Jobe. Obviously, I would say Josh Jobe is corner 2 now behind Witherspoon. He's earned that. He's played consistently to that spot. Kendrick's really found a home as a nickel. Like, I remember when we picked him up off a waiver, so many people went, oh, well, you know, he was horrible on the Rams. That's why I let him go. Well, okay, he may have been bad on the outside, but Mike Macdonald's figured out, hey, he fits very nicely as one of my nickel corners. But then after that, you're talking about Nehemiah Pritchett. You're talking about an aging Shaquille Griffin, which I love him being there as in a pinch, someone's injured, we need to call you up from the practice squad and play you.
Yes.
The thing with Riq is I don't see Riq having a spot on this team in 2026. I don't think they're going to give him a contract extension unless there's unforeseen issues with the rest of the secondary. Like Devin Witherspoon falls on his face, isn't nearly the corner we think he is. Josh Jobe falls off, and we're like sitting there going, okay, like none of these guys panned out. It was a flash in the pan. Then the conversation may change. But if everyone kind of stays status quo as they are right now, I just don't think they'll view Riq as a priority. They may give him the, hey, go out and see what your money is in the market and then come back and talk to us, and we'll see if we can work something out. The thing for me is to your point, it would take a lot for me to justify trading. Like I said, before we got on the show here, if it's a draft pick, we're starting this conversation in a 3rd round pick. And some people may think that that's too high. No, because if he walks in free agency, he's probably getting a 3rd round comp pick back for you anyways. So that's where my draft capital conversation is starting. You want to give up at least a 3rd and maybe a player, then we can start having that conversation on Riq Woolen. But for me, like, people are saying, oh, we'll just trade him for a starting guard. Not a lot of teams are like, my dream situation would be for Seattle to send him to Vegas and us get JPJ back as a starting center on the offensive line. I don't think that's going to happen, though. I don't think Powers Johnson is coming back in a trade after year 2, even though he seems to be in Pete's doghouse down there in Vegas, because that would solve the center position, I think, in a lot of ways in Seattle. I'm not saying Sundell's not playing well, really like Sundell, but JP Johnson coming out was one of the guys I was really excited about as a center prospect for Seattle. And, it would be a great trade, but I don't think so. And one person in here brought up another one. I think Brian brought up, Hawkblogger brought up on one of his shows, was Demario Davis from the Saints. I'd love that too, to pair with Ernest Jones in the middle, because that weak side linebacker spot, which we'll talk about in a bit about Mike Macdonald and stuff. And this defense is kind of an interesting one, but the market's going to be very interesting to see what we start hearing about in a few weeks on what are the nibbles. Things start getting leaked about, oh, like so-and-so's talking to Seattle, or maybe this team, we'll hear nuggets that'll come out. But I agree with you. Like, you'd have to give up a significant amount to get Riq. You can't just be shipping Riq out to ship him out.
Yes. I think it was on Dan's show that he said, when I was on earlier in the week, he said, this isn't a addition by subtraction situation. It's not like he's a cancer in the locker room. He's not causing massive problems. It's not like we just have to get rid of him. That is not this situation. And Dan was 100% right. That is not this situation. In my mind, the beauty, and I've said this so many times, people are probably sick of me saying it, the beauty of the Legion of Boom defense was the depth. And that is something we've not had in a very long time. And so if you are looking to trade a player, you have to get something back in return that is immediately going to make your team better, or will make your team much better in the draft. So I agree with you on the 3rd round pick minimum. Otherwise, what's the point? What happens? Witherspoon has already been injured this year, right? And I'm not saying that he's injury prone or anything, but he's already been injured this year. So let's say he gets hurt again and you've traded Woolen. yeah, we like Kendrick, but we don't know that he can be consistent. We don't know anything about him, right? Then you just have Josh Jobe, you're down to Shaquille Griffin. I don't know that I'm comfortable with that. So if that is a possible situation, then you have to have gotten something that made your team better. They did bring up Davis, Brian Dishu. He's also someone that he and I completely agree on is Thibodeau out of the Giants. If you can get someone like that, and the Giants are probably going to be, I don't know. I think the Jackson Dart game, this last one, was just a rookie bump, and we'll see how that pans out throughout the entire season. But if the Giants get to a situation where they need to start moving some players because they're going to need to rebuild, which they kind of do, Thibodeau might, oh yeah, please. He was my favorite interview at the draft his year. He's fabulous. And so, yeah, I think that would be great. But to just trade him to get rid of him makes no sense at all. I like Woolen. I know people are very anti-Woolen. I just think that he does bring a lot of positives to this defense. And his positives are, if someone else should get hurt, at least he's still there. So it has to be worth it to me.
I think the biggest telling sign on Woolen's situation will be this Sunday, actually, Dayna, and Nicky Manwari's coming back, and I'm super excited about that as well. But it'll be interesting to see which corners are rolled out there and what they do. Does Kendrick play a little bit more the opposite nickel when they go into their big dime sets? You know, it's Jobe and Witherspoon in their two corner sets, and then where does Woolen kind of fit into this now that Nick will be back in the equation? That's where it'll get interesting, because if, you know, I know some people on Twitter were giving Brian some flack for his comment that, Woolen could see 0 snaps this weekend. And I think what people misunderstood in that in some respects was, if the personnel packages don't add up, there could be a significant drop in his snap rate because he doesn't fit the packages that Mike Macdonald wants to run. Because, hey, you know what? We're going to get Nick out there because, I think Brian may have asked the question in the press conference and said, hey, Tampa Bay runs a lot of 11 personnel. Are you going to have Nick out there versus 11 personnel? And Mike basically said, yeah, he can play against 11 personnel, which is fine. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens with Woolen this weekend and how they use him going forward. And if he is, steadily kind of falling down that depth chart, but it's always good to have depth.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's talk about this. Your kind of favorite topic in the world, defense, and this Mike Macdonald defense. So the one thing I want to kind of ask you, from last year to this year, have you seen anything that has shown you that this defense has evolved more under Mike Macdonald going into where they are now in 2025?
Yeah, I think we started to see it more toward the end of last season, kind of earlier, but then there were still these moments at the end of last season where you're like, what the hell are they doing? And I just don't think they had the people they wanted there. You know what I mean? So coming now into this season, I expected, it was very interesting. And I see national media, you have to be careful. So what happened was, I was watching something in preseason, and this guy, he was going on and on and on, this guy, I don't remember who it was going on and on about how there was absolutely no way Mike Macdonald's defense was going to be as good at the beginning of this year as they were at the end of last year, because that's not how defenses work. You have to roll back into the season. It's not like you carry that momentum over. And I was laughing out loud, literally, because I was like, you have no idea what the steps that they have done in this offseason because of the people they added, especially after the draft when they brought Nick in. And it was just like, you could start to see it, that the soup was cooking. He was getting there. He knew what he wanted to do. And so I think there has been a huge to us, probably not as big to look at, from the outside world, but huge to us, difference in the consistency, the way they're playing, the complication. They already, just watching them figure out these offenses is so fast, and the way they're doing it's just been so impressive. The turnovers, we didn't get a ton of those last year. We're already starting to see an increase in that. And so I hope this doesn't sound weird, but the defense seems so much smarter this year. They got it. They understand the complication of it and how complicated it is. And they're using it completely to their advantage with players that fit what they needed. And we saw them, basically get rid of half the people they brought in free agency last year at the mid season last year. So they knew that wasn't working. They've brought in these people. It's so fun to watch. And again, that word excitement, sorry, I keep using it, but the excitement of the defense, it's just fun. And we haven't had fun in the defense in a long time.
That's the one thing I was going to say, that, like, to your point of them being smarter. The other thing is we haven't given up massive explosive plays like we gave up at points last year. And I think that goes to you're returning, what was it, 11 of your 12 or, 12 or whatever it was, 11 or 12 of your 15 starters at points last year to this defense. The other thing too is I think they just all understand where each other's supposed to be, especially on that defensive line. Like the stunts you're seeing now between Jaron Reed and Byron Murphy and Leonard Williams and Byron Murphy and just that group in the pass rush, like, and then you added Chenna back this past week against the Cardinals.
He looks so
and Chenna
good.
comes in and he looks like he's got his explosive step back that me and Dan just did a film breakdown on Chenna. And that was the first thing that jumped off the screen to me was Chenna's got his explosion back. Like he's not slowly, like he trusts his rehab. He trusts what's gone on, and he's now back to being Chenna, which is just an added bonus now that obviously Tank's got that thigh injury. But the thing for me is I agree. They move so much smoother. If that, to your point of smarter, they move smoother as a unit. They don't, once a guy's got a ball, there are 4 or 5 hats going to the ball and they're all getting around the ball. Like I haven't seen really too many guys make an open field tackle and there not be 3 or 4 other Seahawks rallying to where that ball carry is,
right?
Which is awesome. So, the one thing I'm going to ask you, and this is going to be an interesting one. I'm very interested in your response. Is the pass rush making the DB's life easier, or is it vice versa where the DBs are playing so well in the secondary that it's making the pass rush's life easier?
Oh my gosh. Can it be both? I mean, that's fast. That's a really interesting question. If I had to pick, I would think that the line is making the DB's life a little bit easier. But really, it just kind of depends. I mean, and that is true because they've been so good against the run, right? And so then that makes the secondary's life a little bit easier. The secondary is playing very well against, but they're rushing the passer on the. I would have to give it to the line, I guess, going that direction. But yeah, that's a great question. And the interesting thing that you said is that the smoothness of the way they're playing. Any great defense, and you look over the historically good defenses. The reason why they were so good is because they never had to worry about where the person next to them was going to be. They didn't have to babysit, for lack of a better term. They knew their role. They could trust that they had their coverage. It's all in that kind of symbiosis of all of them working together, right? And trusting that. You feel that on this line. We haven't felt that in quite a while. I mean, really since Legion of Boom or ish. And so that's that smoothness and the ease, I think, that we're all seeing is that they trust the other one is doing exactly what they're supposed to do on the line, in the secondary, the safeties, all of them. And that's why it's just all of them working together, getting exactly what they need to do done. It's wonderful.
So my one question I'm going to ask you about this defense right now, Dayna, is what is the weakest point of this defense? I know what I think it is, but I'm interested in what your thought is. What area of this defense is where you still have that, I wish they improved it a little bit more in the offseason, or maybe they can improve it by the trade deadline to really shore this up and get any kind of gaping holes fixed?
Yep. Well, it's the pass rush, right? That's what it is. And I think that's why we're so excited that Chenna had 2 sacks, because it's like, there he is. Because I mean, honestly, we had great line play, but they were just not getting to the passer. They were rushing, but they just weren't getting there. You weren't getting that pass rush that you needed. And that was something that we all had talked about. I mean, you and I talked about, we've all talked about it through the, off season, preseason. It's like, where is that going to come from? Is it from Mike Morris? Is Mafe going to have even another step up? What is going to happen there? And so I think that was still a concern. Do I think it's better after last week? Yeah, I'm like really excited to see Chenna playing so well. But I think that of any cornerbacks, deep, safeties, fantastic, line play, really good. I just think that you need that pass rush to take one more step to be super dominant.
So it's
no,
funny.
You don't agree?
So I think the pass rush is good because you're getting in. You may not be getting the sacks, but you're getting to the quarterback enough to affect him and cause him problems. The position I'm worried about most right now is who is playing beside Ernest Jones, because it's a revolving door. Tyrese Knight I don't know if he's not back, or we don't know what happened in training camp. He had the knee injury and then he was back for a bit. And then he had the undisclosed medical issue that kept him basically out the rest of the preseason. He's come back and he started out with the starting group, but then it seems like each week Drake Thomas has started to get more and more snaps, to the point where in that Thursday night game, Drake Thomas actually started at weak side linebacker, and they basically split reps the whole game. And there were a lot of things I liked about Drake Thomas, but I don't know if Drake Thomas is your starting weak side linebacker every week kind of guy. I think he's great to play in a pinch. And so that's where, for me, like, I'm very interested in, they picked up Paul Jr., or Pooh Paul, as everyone likes to say, from the Rams, and he's on the practice squad. So I'll be interested to see how they develop him, because he was someone I was very high on in the draft process, like a guy that, hey, I think Seattle could grab him in the mid rounds and be a guy you could develop in Mike Macdonald's system. So it's great they ended up getting him. But the thing for me is what happens with that weak side linebacker position if and when you have an injury there. If Drake Thomas goes down or Tyrese Knight goes down, who's now filling that void? Or if Ernest Jones goes down, knock on wood, that never happens. Yeah. How does that linebacking core? Because we saw what happened last year when you didn't have the right pieces in place for that linebacking core.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I totally agree. I think that as excited as we are about the defense and how well they're playing, there are still going to be a few issues to get them to that elite level. But my God, the way they've been getting better each week, I'm real excited.
I'm really excited too. And so Rob's got a really good question, super chat in here from Rob. He goes, how many sacks will the Hawks get versus Tampa Bay?
Yeah.
It's a pretty beat up O-line.
Yeah, Wirf's back. I mean, they have some back. I don't know. We're going to talk about Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is a feisty little team, even with all their injuries. Woof. I'm going to say 2. I'm going to say 2.
I'm going to say 3.5 because I can get that half mark in there. I'm going to say 3.5 sacks. Brandon comes in with one. He goes, McDonald's talked a lot about giving up personal accolades for defensive soundness. I think that's a really key thing that he's maybe got more buy-in this year. Guys all being there through OTAs and everything, like the entire team was there at some point. And you listen to the way like a Leo talks and this whole group is talking, Ernest Jones, like they are collectively more concerned about being a great unit than they are about what they do individually.
It's true. I think that goes along with what we were talking about already, though, right? Like that working together, that kind of perfect little, meld of everyone working together. Because if one person doesn't do their job, it's going to affect 3 or 4 other people, right? Obviously. So you want to make sure that they're all working together. So that makes sense. Can we talk about for a minute, though, about the difference in Mike Macdonald this year? We talked about the difference in the defense. We talked about the difference in the offense. But really, the difference in the head coach is actually a huge jump. Everyone knows and gave me a lot of crap for last year that I was not completely bought in on Mike Macdonald. Everyone's over the moon, right? Like everyone was so excited about him, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, can we slow our roll? I mean, I understand that everyone's excited to get rid of Pete, and I really like Pete, but I understood why they moved on. I'm not bitter about that at all. But I don't know. He was such a cold fish, right? Oh my gosh. You can tell he's like taking a breath. And he really is starting to trust. I think that has a lot to do with it, though. He's starting to trust the people around him. He did not trust Ryan Grubb. He did not. That was not his guy. And so maybe he was a little more vigilant than at that point. I'm not sure. But he has really settled into this role wonderfully. And the players have just responded fantastically.
The thing that I would say was really interesting, to your point, Dayna, about Mike Macdonald year 1 to Mike Macdonald year 2 is Mike Macdonald year 1 is like when you jump on a treadmill and you think you can run really fast and you hit go and you're just running and you have no control over, your breathing rate or anything. That was Mike Macdonald last year because he got hired so late in that process. He kind of just got thrown a staff together. Basically, defense, he had more saying because he kind of had an idea of who he wanted in Durde and some of the pieces he brought in. And then offense, it was like, okay, who we picking? Like we heard the reports that Arthur Smith was really his guy, but Arthur Smith took the Pittsburgh job because he didn't want to wait and hope that Mike got a job. So you get left with Ryan Grubb and Scott Huff, and we saw the disaster that was. I think we can call it that. And then this year, he got to be involved in Senior Bowl. He got to be involved in the draft process. He got to, be involved in a very extensive hiring process. Like, you could tell, as much as we all as Seahawks fans were like, okay, well, you just hire an offensive coordinator already? Like, this is getting ridiculous. He went through it his way. And the thing that was really interesting, I was listening to, I can't remember who it was, on a show, and they were talking about the different coaches in the NFL, and they were an ex-player, and they said you get some coaches that are emotionally driven coaches where they thrive off of the team's emotion and getting guys to play. And they go, then there's the analytical guys, and they're the guys that early on in their coach will struggle because they don't have the data presented to them yet. But once they get the data and the way to do things, they take off and end up being the long-term success. Like, you look at a Bill Belichick, you look at some of those guys, Nick Saban in college, and then there are the emotional guys, which I think is more Pete's kind of wheelhouse, and he's done extremely well with it. Mike Macdonald's that analytical guy, and I think that's what we're starting to see is he's now got his, okay, this is how it's supposed to go, this is how I want it to go, this is how we're going to do it. And now he can kind of, like you said, to your point, just settle in. Now I know what I'm going to have here going forward. This is how our program, the Mike Macdonald Seattle Seahawks program, works going forward. And I think you saw that with player acquisitions as well. Like, he probably had a massive say in, like, I want guys that love ball, that want to be here, that want to work. We're not going to deal, because I'll say this might be one of the very few off seasons we went through and training camps and everything for the Seattle Seahawks where there was really no drama.
Right? Nothing. Yeah. We had talked about that on our turf quite a bit. We're like, there's a lot of teams, though. There was not a lot of drama around the whole entire league, especially because Aaron Rodgers, except for him, and we just ignore him. But yeah, definitely for Seattle, there wasn't a holdout or a contract dispute or an attitude or I'm not showing up or anything. It was just, they came in and they went to work. Yeah. It was very refreshing, to be honest with you. And I think you're right. And I think Mike Macdonald wants players who aren't trying to steal the spotlight from the entire team. That sounds like a dig on DK, and it's not. I'm not. I actually really like the way DK played, and I like that he's rough and tumble. And he was a Pete guy, right? Like, that's what he made sense there. Gino was a Pete guy. It made sense there. Didn't make sense with Mike Macdonald. That's just not what he wanted. And so I think he seems very analytical in the people he puts around him, and I think that is going to be very beneficial to Seahawks, the team, and to the fans for a long time.
And the thing about when I look at Clint Kubiak is he's very much the same thing. He is so dry. He is not a personality. He is very much, and that, to me, honestly, I know a lot of people worried like, oh, if this offense explodes, we're going to lose Clint Kubiak in 2 seasons. I don't see that. Clint Kubiak gives me the coordinator vibe. I don't think he may, but he doesn't give me the vibe of someone that's gunning to be a head coach as soon as possible. He's more of I kind of like what I'm doing and where I'm like. His dad was an offensive coordinator for years before he got a head coaching job. And so I think that may be the arc path of Clint Kubiak here. The last question I'm going to ask you about defense here, Dayna, is, in your opinion, who is the tone setter for this defense?
Well, I think it's Leo. Does that make, I think he's the leader of the defense. I think this sounds really weird, but especially what came out about Gray Zabel today, about he said, will you look at my reps? Will you do this? Will you do that? They're coming to him, right? He is the leader. He sets the tone. Now we have, the flash of Witherspoon and the, John that he does and all of that fun stuff that we enjoy as fans. But the guy who comes in, does the job, tells people what to do, and everyone pays attention to, it's definitely Leo, 100%.
So it's interesting because I had 2 other names for me that popped up before Leo popped up in my head. One being Jaron Reed. Because
quietly,
when you see
that
the
would
team,
make sense.
Because when you see the team before the game, when they're doing their like mob kind of mentality there, the guy in the middle is Jaron Reed. He's the one talking. He's the one setting the tone. And then the other guy for me is Ernest Jones. Ernest Jones has become that kind of vocal. Like Leo, I think, is more, to your point, the quiet leader. Yeah. And he leads with his play. I feel like Ernest Jones is more the guy that's the vocal one. Like you look at like when he's talking in his press conferences and everything, and just how vocal and rambunctious he is on the field. To me, that sets a little bit more the attitude tone, I guess, maybe a little bit with this defense. And I think, to your point, though, when it comes to the professionalism and the work ethic, Leo's probably the guy that sets that tone to that point. I think they've got maybe a couple on this team, but like it's an interesting topic of who really, because like back with the LOB, it was Cam. Cam was the tone setter for that defense.
Yep. Cam and Bobby.
Like it was kind of an especially after his holdout, it was the undisputed decision that, hey, Cam is the guy, because he was the one that wore the C. He was the guy that kind of ran that players group for Pete. So it's interesting to see how this team's a little bit different in that regard. But I gotta ask you about
how lucky to have more than one. How lucky, have different types of guys that players can go to. It's I'm telling you, it's a ridiculous amount of riches that we have right now.
It really is. So let's talk about the guy on the other side of the ball.
Okay.
Sam Darnold.
Okay.
How would you evaluate his first 4 games in this season so far? And just his demeanor from the offseason through.
Perfect. I could not ask for any more from Sam Darnold. And I don't like quarterbacks. You know that. But I will tell you, so they traded Geno. Okay, we knew. Then we're like, yep, it's Sam Darnold. Like, we just knew, right? It was like, and I was not over the moon about it, just because I was like, and I get a lot of crap for saying this, but I'm like, we have a very beige head coach. They hired Kubiak, who's, not super exciting. And then we went and got Sam Darnold, who's a little boring. And it's like, I could not have been more wrong. And I am happy to own that, right? Mike Macdonald's to come out of his beigeness. I say he's a good, solid, bright color now. And Kubiak, I think we're still learning a lot about him. But I think you're right. He's a very analytical guy. I like it. But Sam Darnold is not at all what I expected. He's really he's just on the field. He does his job. He knows exactly what he's supposed to do. He's insanely smart football wise. Like, I love to watch him play, and I don't like offense all that much. I mean, I do. Don't get me wrong. I love a good catch and all that stuff, but I always say that, but Marshawn Lynch is my favorite player. So I guess I like it somewhat, but he has been such a joy to watch. He understands they are going to run that ball. He's not complaining that he only has the 28 throws or whatever. I will tell you, I have said this. There was a play in the Arizona game. It was toward the end of the first quarter. He threaded that ball. I don't think it was this wide between 2 defenders right to Barner. I mean, it was perfect. It was perfectly placed. And I was like, oh my God, that was so pretty. But yet he can still throw down the field. When he runs, it makes me laugh a little bit. He's not a runner, but he does it. If he sees it, he'll go. And so I give him an A+. I love what Kubiak has done with him. I love the way that he is running this offense. I think they just trust him. They trust his gut. And I am thrilled with Sam Darnold, which is not something I thought I'd say when it was the end of July.
Well, and that's the thing. I think a lot of people are surprised nationally as well, because I think a lot of people were under the impression, it was all Kevin O'Connell. Kevin O'Connell and the Vikings were the reason Sam Darnold was what he was last year. And I was always of the mentality when we brought Sam in to look at, okay, we're talking about a guy that was the 3rd overall pick, had a really rough go in probably outside of Cleveland, the worst quarterback franchise to go to if you're a first-round quarterback in the New York Jets. He then goes to Carolina. He does okay in Carolina. He comes back from an injury. He gets him down the stretch of 6 games. He's 4-2. You could kind of see, okay, there's a little bit of the pieces around him. He's starting to play better. To have the wherewithal as a 3rd overall pick who was a starter in Carolina to go, yeah, okay, I've been released. They're not bringing back. I'm going to go be a backup to a 7th round Mr. Irrelevant pick who is substantially younger than me. And I'm going to go learn from him. That's the key thing for me when I looked at the demeanor of Sam and I went, okay, this guy is so self-aware and wants to actually be great. He's not just going to rest on the, hey, I'm a 3rd overall pick in the NFL draft. I should just be given starting jobs until I flame out of the league, essentially. No, he goes and learns and he humbles himself. And then he goes to Minnesota and basically signs the equivalent of what we used to sign Geno to, of the, hey, come in and be our security blanket behind our rookie quarterback. Rookie quarterback gets hurt and JJ McCarthy. Sam comes in and can finally now play. There's weapons around him. hey, don't save us. Don't be the guy that does everything. And that was one thing Sam said in his press conference was, I'm learning not to have to make every play. Get the ball to the other guys and let them do the work. My job is to get us in the right spot at the right time to execute. And that's the one thing I think we've seen this year. The one thing I've been so impressed with is moments where he decides not to throw it. And he decides to check it down, or he decides to take off and run or whatever, is so much better. And now you look at Minnesota, and they were so, in some respects, willing to move off Sam and go, yeah, we got JJ McCarthy. We're going to go Kevin O'Connell's. That's not working out so well for you, Minnesota, right now. There's all this, whole thing about, hey, Carson Wentz is going to come in. It's going to be the Sam Darnold effect 2.0. Yeah, that didn't go so well for you in Dublin over there in Ireland. So I think we secretly may have found a diamond in the rough in Sam Darnold that I think there's a chance if Sam keeps playing this way, which isn't hard to do, I don't think. Again, to our point, he's not throwing the ball 40 times in the game. So, you're kind of getting to that point with Sam where this may be someone that stays a little bit longer than maybe initially intended.
Sorry about that. I took a drink and forgot I muted myself. But I think you're right. I think that I think a lot of people looked at his contract when he signed and they're like, oh, they can get out of it in a couple of years. No big deal. Whatever. He's just a stopgap. And I think that he has proven that is absolutely not the case. And I think that he can be your franchise quarterback for how many years? He's not that old, you guys. We keep forgetting. You know what I mean?
27.
And I know. And I look at this. Adam Schefter's put this out there. I don't want anyone. I always want to give credit to where I get these things. But he did this whole video today about how really, Baker went first overall in 2018. Sam went third. They're going to play each other this week. They are 1 yard apart in how much they have thrown this year, in their yardage they've thrown. The Seahawks and the Bucs, exact same number of points scored. Makes you think that maybe when these good quarterbacks go to really bad teams, it's not their fault that they're really bad. Do you know what I mean? Could be the coaching, could be the players around them, all the things. And so when Baker has completely revived his career, Sam has now revived his career. You see this over and over. I think we need to give them a little more credit for going where they did in the draft, right? Now, sometimes teams reach and it's like, oh, that kid's like a second round draft pick. What are you doing? But that was not the case with these two. And so I think the beauty of what is going on with Sam is he's, like you said, proving that he can continue to do this without Justin Jefferson, without Kevin O'Connell, without those guys. It was him. It wasn't necessarily, I'm not saying having Justin Jefferson on your team is not a bad thing. I mean, it's a good thing, but you know what I mean? He can do it with other weapons too. I love it. I could not be more thrilled that that's who they ended up getting, because it just seems to be the perfect marriage between him and Kubiak.
The thing for me, Dayna, about rookie quarterbacks, and I think this is something that we need to almost, how the NFL can be a bit of a cyclical thing where it's like, oh, we're too high shell defenses and now we're going to start running the ball again. And then defenses will start getting a bit bigger. Oh, we got to spread them out and throw it. Like, it's this ongoing cycle, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think they need to look back at how quarterbacks in the past were developed and what teams did. And a lot of teams, what they would do is they'd build their roster. Okay, we're going to get a roster. Yeah, we may have a great defense and some offensive weapons and an O-line. And you look at what Seattle did initially when John and Pete came in. We're going to build a defense. We're going to build a run game. Now we'll insert our quarterback where we can ask him, regardless of where we take them in the draft, if we think you're the guy, come in, manage the game. And hearing the term game manager drives me up the wall for this reason. It is not a bad term. It drives me absolutely nuts as someone that played the position, coaches quarterbacks, runs an offense. That is your job. You are an extension of your coach to manage the 10 guys on the field and help control the flow of the offensive game. That is your job. It's not to be super flashy. Like, that's all great and dandy if you have moments like that and can do certain things like that. I'm never going to, give grief to a player like a Josh Allen or Mahomes, but your job is to manage the game and put yourself in the best points to be successful. So I want my quarterback to be an elite game manager. That's what I want him to do at the end all of be everything is an elite game manager. Don't turn the ball over. But the problem is we put these young quarterbacks in these situations with bad rosters and bad teams, and they get completely shell-shocked. And some of them never recover because they're never able to actually go to a good team, play with talent, and a coaching staff go, hey, make me 3 maybe give me 3 solid plays where you have to do something to extend a drive or something. But other than that, get the ball, get us in the right play, and get the ball to our playmakers. That's what their jobs are to do, is to go make the plays and finish the game that way for us.
Right.
That's where I feel like NFL teams right now are trying to figure out how, like, you look at JJ McCarthy. A lot of people are saying, oh, he's going to be horrible. He's going to be a bust. JJ McCarthy could end up going somewhere. You know, he could end up with a great offensive coordinator. Who knows? They think he's a bust, and he ends up in LA with McVay. And all of a sudden we look at JJ McCarthy in 5 years and go, well, why wasn't this the guy that we saw in Minnesota? Well, you didn't have pieces around him, or whatever it may be, right? Like, those may be the conversations that start happening. It's such a frustrating thing for me when people look at quarterbacks and they go, well, because he failed in one place, he's just a write-off. Just write him right off.
Drives me crazy. And, it used to be rookie quarterback sat for a year, right? I remind everyone, Patrick Mahomes it was on the bench for a year behind Alex Smith, because Alex Smith taught him how to be a quarterback. You know what I mean? That used to be the norm. And now that is not. They're like, oh, you're a first rounder, you got to go, right? Sorry, go ahead.
This is a good one. So I'd rather be flying an X-Way comes in. He goes, to quote Dan Viens, best case scenario is not develop Milroe. Best case scenario is Sam Darnold becomes our franchise quarterback.
Right. Or both. Can we do
both? Can we do both? Can we have one?
Green Bay did it. Can we do it?
Well, and even look at Drew Lock. Like, I know, people are, but Drew Lock, even in the preseason, looked like a completely different quarterback than we had 2 years ago when he was here initially with Pete and John. Like, he's been able to go out, he's come back, he's more mature. There's a bunch of things. Like, Drew Lock, to me, like, if we were to lose Sam for a week, I'm so confident Drew Lock could step in and actually manage a game and get us a win.
I'm glad you have that confidence. I don't know.
Hey, would you okay, here, Dayna. I'll put it this way.
He wouldn't lose the game. Do you know what I mean? I don't know that he'd win it, but he wouldn't lose it. It wouldn't be because.
But with our defense, he might not have to win it.
Exactly. And that's what you need. And I think, there's a really good example. Another really good example of what we're just talking about is Jared Goff. LA bailed on Jared Goff, and off he goes to the Lions and kills it. And so you have to remember that when these and this is a point to make about Geno too. When these players get these reputations from other bad teams and they go somewhere, it doesn't mean that they were a bad player. So when everyone's like, why are you bringing Geno Smith in? He was terrible with the Jets, blah, blah, blah. Well, maybe he won't be terrible here. And he wasn't. He wasn't a barn burner, but he wasn't terrible, right? And so I think that that's important to remember. So Sam Darnold coming in and expecting him to maybe just be fine and has been fantastic. Oh, it's perfection.
So I got one question for you, Dayna. We'll get into this Bucs matchup here, and we'll discuss that. We'll talk about the Seahawks and Bucs and retro day that it's going to be, which is going to be awesome. But I've got a question for you about this offense, and it's kind of this situation. Can the offense keep pace if the defense has a down week? If they get into a shootout with somebody, say, and we're not talking like a bad team, we're talking like, say, the Rams. Say they have a down week versus the Rams. Can Seattle's offense keep pace with the Rams?
Yes. I think so. I think so. Because they haven't had to do it yet, right? And so we don't know for sure, but they're scoring great points. They are, and they are working their way downfield. There's some where it's like, oh God, another 3 and out, but that's any team, right? They all do that. So yes, I think, especially with the way they're getting better each week, they really are building on each week. And a point that's been made a lot is, the offensive line, we're not blocking very well for the run and we're having issues with that, but they're getting a little better each week. They're very young and it's only 4 games. We have to remind ourselves of that every once in a while. And so, yes, I think, especially by the time they play the Rams in week 11, knock on wood, no injuries. Yeah, I think they could. I'm almost an offense.
That's
lover.
really weird for you. I was going to say, Dayna, this is a really weird conversation. You've never been this hyped up on an offense. I'm very
impressed. Well, I haven't in a long time. I really, like I said, you made me miss Doug Baldwin. I was a real big fan of his. So,
So let's talk about this matchup with the Buccaneers and the Seahawks. So how much for you does the Tampa Bay injury situation swing this matchup potentially into Seattle's favor?
It's huge. It's absolutely huge. I think if Tampa Bay was at full health, I don't think Seattle would win this game. Here's the thing. Tampa Bay, they haven't really they haven't really beaten anybody. I get that, right? Like they've beaten the Falcons. They beat, who else are they? Houston. Like there's not like been a huge, like, holy God. And they didn't play great against the Eagles when they had to, right? But they're a scrappy team. They're very feisty. Baker Mayfield doesn't know what quit means, right? And when he needs to be the guy, he can be the guy. But if you don't have anyone else on the field with you, I don't know that he can be that guy. And, their head coach said, he goes, we changed it to a walkthrough because we didn't have, there was less people who could practice than who couldn't, and so they're in a bad spot. Now they're starting to get a couple people back, but I think that these injuries are huge in the Seattle win category. These teams are so similar. You know what I mean? The Bucs defense is good. I mean, they have names. They have Kansas, they have Vea, they have all of these players who are still really good. They're very good at stopping the run. So I don't think that that's going to help us very much this week. But at the same time, I think they were pretty evenly matched, if not the Bucs, just a little more feisty. But these injuries, oh my gosh, especially Bucky Irving. I mean, it's like, it's huge. It's huge.
So interestingly enough, Mookie Alexander comes in and says, no love or spoon practicing again today. And that for me is more of a, do we see them? But again, this is to your point earlier, Dayna, depth. Ty Okada's looked good. D'Anthony Bell has looked good when they've had to step in. Woolen's still there now to play in case Spoon can't go. So you're not down to Shaquille Griffin or Nehemiah Pritchett having to step into that role. But I will say that's not the news I was hoping for on a Thursday going into it, that after coming off a mini bye, these two are still not practicing.
Right. I agree. It is a little concerning. Yesterday, I didn't care. Like, it's Wednesday. Who cares? Right.
Thursday's a little bit different.
Thursday's a little different. Tomorrow will be. Yeah. But at the same time, we've seen a game without them and it wasn't terrible. Right. Like, and that's where that depth comes in. That's where I'm like, are we sure we want to shake Woolen out the door? I don't know that we want to do that. And so I think I love so much. So it kills me when he's not on the team, or not when he's not on the field. But I think they came back because it was a divisional game. They knew they needed to get that win. Maybe with all of the injuries going on with Tampa Bay, maybe they're like, let's give them an extra time. I don't know. I'm so excited to get Nick back because I can't wait to see how much better this defense can be. Hopefully with him, we got this much of a glimpse of him, right? And so I think that is huge. But yeah, I'd be a lot happier if Spoon and Love were on the field.
It's so funny you talk about the Nick and Ward coming back because I think that's going to be so huge. And the analogy I have used this week for that situation is Mike Macdonald is Thanos. He's got his Infinity Gauntlet, and Nicky Manwari is the last stone he's got to put in to have it at full power. He got a taste of it and lost that stone, and now he's got an opportunity to put it back into the gauntlet so we can see what this full defense will be like with him. I'll ask you this,
and then we don't
Dayna.
get the full defense.
I know. It's coming. It's slowly coming. We're going to get there. What's the key position group, in your opinion, that Seattle must dominate against with this depleted Buck roster?
Oh, that's a good question. I think the offense has to take advantage. They really, really do. They need to take advantage there. And I because the Bucs line is coming back. And so I think that'll be the offensive line, excuse me. I'm sorry. I should have said the offensive line, with some of those players coming back. But then I did see today, and I don't know if was it yesterday that Baker was injured, didn't practice. I don't know if that was today or yesterday. So it's like, oh, son of a bitch. So then you want to rush passer, so that. But no, I think the offense just needs to take full advantage. They need to just go. They just need to push. And I know they're super good against the run, but stick with the run because then that just opens up so many more opportunities for the passing game and use those tight ends across the middle of the field because the Bucs are not great around the middle and across the middle of the field. So use that to your advantage. So that's what I would do.
This is currently the Tampa Bay Buccaneers injury report.
Oh my God.
Levante David, limited both days. Jamal Dean did not participate Wednesday or Thursday. Mike Evans is out, did not participate. Greg Gaines fully participated. Chris Godwin will probably be back this week. He was a full participant. Bucky Irving, no participation. When it comes to the O-line, Tristan Wirfs was a full participant today, so that'll get him back into the lineup. Charlie Heck was a full participant, so you're going to get both those guys back. It'll be interesting, and this is the big Tyree. We gotta look at it this way. This is a Bucky Irving, but the big thing that's missing from this team is Mike Evans. Mike Evans missing this game is going to be huge for that passing offense because you're putting a lot on Mbuka, you're putting a lot on K-Dot, and yes, Chris Godwin is a really good receiver, but this will be his first game back. So what does that manage of reps look like for him? It'll be interesting to see how the Bucs, and what Seattle is. But I agree with you. I think the thing for me, as much as, I want to see our O-line and this run game get going, it's going to be really tough against Vita Vea because I think he's a Hall of Fame level player with what he's been able to do. Bradford, hopefully his back injuries up and over with this week so he can be at full health because I think that did really hamper him last week.
I think so too.
Same with Sundell, same with Abe Lucas. They both had elbow injuries, which again, as an offensive lineman, is not the easiest thing in the world to play with. So I think for me, it's the D-line. Get after Baker and make him uncomfortable. Baker's got a bad knee is what it sounds like and a bicep injury. If you can get after Baker and make him uncomfortable, at least to a point, I think it bodes better in the long run of the game because we've seen Sam, and if their secondary is as beat up as it is, JSN, Cooper Kupp, and them might be able to still take advantage, even if the run game isn't totally effective.
And that's why I think the Bucky injury is even bigger. Okay. So I think that's a big one because if you have a QB that is not at 100%, that he is, hindered in any way because of the bicep, because of the knee, whatever it is, then you're going to try and hand the ball up. Well, if you don't have Bucky there, that completely limits what they can do. And so it's going to be fascinating to see how they adjust for that. But I think that it's very important for the defense to have a plan, stick to the plan, and take full advantage of that. But that offense just needs to just kill it and take advantage of that secondary injury for sure. Yeah, it's going to be it's going to be a beautiful game. I'm so excited.
It's going to be so nice.
Yeah.
If it's supposed to be nice and sunny in Seattle too, so it's going to be perfect for those retro jerseys. I think, again, I think it may be the game at this point in the season has the potential to be the game of the year for looks, but I think it may also be the game of the year just for the level of ball that we'll see from two quarterbacks. So I got a feeling Baker and Sam are going to have quite the show going on. But the last thing I'll ask you for here, Dayna, on this topic is what is your score prediction for this game?
27-17.
For?
Oh, Seattle. Sorry. Yeah, I do think because of the injury, I think that Seattle is going to win this game. I think it'll be probably by 10. And I think that, like you said, if the injuries were not the issue, it would be a much closer, tighter game with maybe Tampa Bay having the upper hand, but not with these injuries.
And I'll give my score prediction on Friday when I do my preview show with Lucy. So I'm going to hang off on that. We got Dayna's one. But Dayna, one thing I do with all the guests that come on the show is I do the 2-minute drill. So I'm going to ask you 10 questions.
Okay.
Give your answer. You're allowed one timeout at one point. There's no call a friend and there's no challenges. It's just one timeout. That's all you're afforded in the 2-minute drill. So we will get into the 2-minute drill right after this. All right, Dayna, question number 1 in the 2-minute drill. Who has been the Seahawks MVP so far?
Sam Darnold. I'm so impressed. I'm so impressed. I think it's because I just didn't know, and he has just looked fantastic. I should give it to a defensive player. I do love the defense, but I think Sam Darnold has been kind of a little shining light.
Bigger surprise, JSN's full emergence to being a top receiver in the NFL or the pass rush dominance?
I think JSN, right? We weren't quite sure. Yeah.
Question 3, coming up to their contract years, who do you pay as a priority, JSN or Devin Witherspoon?
I think if JSN continues the way he is, you have to pay him. He has to be the priority.
Okay. Question 4, has Devin Witherspoon lived up to being a number 5 overall pick?
Yes.
Okay.
I love that I don't have to
Which
give a reason.
that's the only good thing about this. You can say yes. 5. Which NFC team worries you most as a Seahawks fan?
Probably the Rams right now.
Okay. Question 6. Which position should Seattle target most at the trade deadline?
A pass rusher. I still am there. Yeah. Some linebacker
Okay.
at some point. Mm-hmm.
Question 7. Bold prediction for the Bucs Seahawks game. 1 sentence or word.
A bold prediction? Oh, I
Yep.
might need a timeout. Okay. I'm gonna say K9 gets 100 yards.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Question 8. Sleeper player who you want to see step up this week.
Oh, I want to see Nick be the Nick we thought he could be. Eminori.
Okay. Question 9. What is your record prediction for Seattle's next 4 games?
Oh my gosh. You're going to have to remind. Okay. So we play Arizona again. Who is it again? What
The next
order?
4 games is the
Yeah.
Buccaneers right now. So
Yeah.
you got the Bucs, you've got the Texans, the Jags, the bye, and then the Commanders. So take out the bye, you've got that group. Bucs, Jags, Texans, Commanders.
Bucs, Jags. We play there. Texans in Seattle.
Yeah. And Commanders in Washington.
3-1.
Okay. Question 10. Who right now or what most underrated player will have the biggest impact by the end of the season?
Oh, I'm going to kick myself for this, Kendrick.
And that's the 2-minute drill. Dayna, your face is not selling us
Well,
on that one.
because that means that then he would end up replacing Woolen, and it's like a whole thing. But I'm like, I don't know, underrated. I really am enjoying Kendrick quite a bit.
So am I. So let's just do this before we get out
I
of here,
like that
Dayna.
answer in comments though. Kobe Bryant, yeah, that could be good too. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Kobe Bryant's my guy, so I'm always
Yeah,
on the
I like that
Kobe
too.
Bryant bandwagon. But just dealing with these constant bots jumping into my chat. But let's get to some of these questions here. So we got some interesting ones.
Yeah.
Rampasy comes in. If Julian Lund doesn't play, he wouldn't play if he's healthy anyway, or to that point. This game is a lot closer than people think it will be. Do you think that's the case, Dayna?
I mean, it could be, like I keep saying, and I know that this isn't, I know that people are so stat driven. This isn't a stat. The Bucs are very, very feisty. And so that could be, but I don't know that it would be a lot closer. It might be a little closer, but.
We got Mookie coming back in. He goes, Seahawks need to be very disciplined in their rush lanes like they were against Kyler because Baker is so good at escaping pressure these days. I agree, but I'm interested to see how mobile Baker is with this knee injury.
It could be huge.
It'll be very interesting to see kind of what kind of goes on there. What other ones do we have in here? I'm just looking through our chat. Oh, here we go. Tyler Dart. Nobody's talking about it, but I believe one of the best throws / decisions was the play before the sideline pass the JSN at the end of the Arizona game. Nothing was there, and basically Sam threw it out of bounds to move on. Yeah, that's what we were talking about. His decision-making has been so good so far this year. It's been really impressive to see that he, like old Sam, may have tried to force it into somebody.
Right.
Let's see here. Oh, Rampant, temper your expectations on Nick. He's had a few snaps in a real NFL game coming off a high ankle sprain. I know, but I've seen what he could be. I'm allowed to dream.
Well, honestly, I mean, just having him there will be good, right? And we can see what we can do. Yeah, he's going to make some rookie bonehead decisions, but it's exciting.
Kronos comes in. Did you see that Kobe and the team were too far apart on money to get a deal done during training camp alongside Lucas? It's really interesting, the Kobe Bryant thing, because I've heard a couple things from people I know that, are connected to what's going on in that building too. Yeah, the money thing. Terms was another thing. And part of it was Kobe actually wanted to bet on himself a little bit and see if he could increase his value. Because you got to remember, from Kobe Bryant's perspective, last year was really his first true year as a starter. He had basically started as a nickel his rookie year, got injured his second year, didn't really see the field. They started the transition to safety. Then he fell out of favor with Pete, then Mike brings him in after Rayshon gets hurt last year, and Kobe's like, wow, he's this awesome safety. Like, he pairs so well with Julian. And so I think for Kobe, it's hey, you know what? I want to see if I can get my market value and make as much money as possible. The other thing I think for Kobe is, does he go to another system, and is he as successful?
Right. And that's why the whole betting on yourself thing has to come into play, right? I'm a big proponent of get your money, because I know how short that your career can be. One little wrong hit and you're done, right? So get your money. And yet at the same time, you have to be smart about it, because look at the system you're playing in, look at how it's working for you. So
Daddy Dennis here comes over under on Bucs fans at the game, 750.
I think there'll be a lot of Bucs games.
I don't think there will be.
They don't. Well, they don't travel like San Francisco or Raiders or some of those other crazy teams, even the psycho Chiefs fans. But I bet. Here's the thing with these away fans, and I know that's a big issue with a lot of people. You have to look at the destination cities, and whether you like it or not, Seattle is a destination city now. It's a great vacation town. I think it's interesting that the Mariners are also playing that night. And so that could bring some people in to go watch a baseball game too. So I think there'll be more than 750.
We got this one here. Last one we'll do is, I'd be rather flying an X-Wing. I feel like Spoon is the new emotional mascot in the same way Marshawn Lynch was. He sets the physical example, and even if his stats are down, he's still the heart of the team type player. Yeah, I can't argue with that. That's a very true fact. Like, they're starting to get personalities again on this team, which is nice to see, because we kind of went through that point in time where we kind of lost those. So it'll be interesting to see. But Dayna, I want to thank you again for coming on the show. It was great to have you on the show again. So why don't you tell my listeners where they can find more of your content? I know you got your own podcast there, the Archer Football Podcast. What else are you doing, and what else do you got going on?
So we do the Our Turf Football Podcast, which I think this is our 16th year now, or 15th season maybe. I know it's been a minute. We've been doing this for a minute, but every Tuesday night on YouTube, where we cover all 32 teams. So it's not a Seahawks specific podcast. We cover all 32 teams. And then of course I am a guest pretty regularly over on Real Hawk Talk with the Hawk Blogger crew. And it's going to be fun. I hope everyone's going. I'm pimping this out there like crazy. I hope everyone's going to the Titans game, because it's going to be crazy. Like, everyone's going. It's going to be so much fun. So the more the merrier. Let's take over that stadium.
Well, guys, that'll wrap up tonight's show. So make sure you guys sub up to the channel, click the notification button, go down, and I'll make sure in the description here that Dayna's stuff's all posted here, so you can go follow Dayna's stuff. They do amazing content on the Our Turf Football Podcast. I listen to it relatively frequently, as much as I can, and it's great stuff. I love the insight, so that's awesome. And tomorrow night, 6 o'clock, I believe, is what we're doing. 6 o'clock is going to be our live preview show. Me and Mookie Alexander, we're doing State of the Hawks check-in, as well as previewing the Bucs Seahawks game. So I'm excited for it. And with that being said, Dayna, thank you again for your time, and everyone else, have a good night. Go Hawks.